7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with a very sleepy Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
It was a busy weekend.
It was a super busy weekend. I just want you to know I enjoyed watching things on Channel 15. I was at the office on Sunday. I was doing mother-daughter, Mother's Day weekend stuff with Grace all day Saturday. Had the best day, which we can talk about later. But Sunday, I was in my office working on the newsletter because I am up against a deadline, and I have a wedding to go to, so we're going to be away for a few days. And I'm like, I got to get this done. But I had Channel 15 on. You know, the only thing that was disappointing was they were really flying close to the base.
They changed the aerobatic box.
Yeah, so Gary Gary came down. He had the lawn chairs out, at the senior center, and
he should have come up. You should have told him to come up to see us.
Well,
I could have got him parking spot.
I know. Well, I did. I said to him, he was there.
Right through.
He was there for like 45 minutes, and I told him, I said, Garrett, do you want to head up there? And by that time, he was pretty fried. He had a really big track meet the day before, so he said, no, I'm ready to go home and take a nap.
Because Harry and Ann got off the plane from Portugal at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
They slept in, and then they worked their way over and
did.
hung out, and then Harry ended up closing the show with us. So
yeah, well, it was interesting.
Crazy. It was crazy all weekend.
My principal clerk, Carol Shannon, literally lives like on the other side of the railroad track. She's right there, so the chairs are set up on her deck.
Did you tell her about 89.5?
She had Channel 15 on the whole time. So she said what she was doing was, in between. She said the chairs were set up on the deck. I had Channel 15 on. I could kind of listen to what was going on. Then I kind of knew when things were she said there's just a little lag time.
Yep.
And so she said then I would get everybody outside. Okay, let's go. They're about to fly. She goes, it was
got
perfect.
Her FM radio out and turn on 89.5 on the deck.
Well, I think she was really happy with what was going on with Channel 15 so that she could get out there. She didn't miss anything. She said it was fabulous.
Yeah, but if she had the radio on, she could have listened to the call from the show announcer with the music while it was happening.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyways, I know that's what Teddy Perez did up on the deck up at East Mountain Country Club.
Yeah. So
he had a big party up there.
Yeah, which was great. Yeah, so
it was good.
Good show.
Saturday we had a lot of help.
Okay.
The Knappich boys, two of our students, Sophia and Curtis, came up there, and Steve Donnelly came back and helped with Danny.
Oh my God, Steve Donnelly!
Did a great job.
Blast from the past.
Lynn O'Brien and her husband camped up there all weekend. They brought their camper up there and parked it, and so they were self-contained. I talked to the airport manager. He's like, as long as they're not dumping anything, I can park right up here at the airport.
Wow.
So they were on site all weekend, and they were a huge help. Jamie O'Brien's a retired. He worked at Collins Aerospace, and he tried to remote cameras. And there was a little bit of swearing. I won't lie, but he did a really good job. And then we had a guy, honest to God, email me this big long email about how we could improve the show and how we should focus and simplify and blah 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 blah. Right? And I was mad. Right? I was just truly mad because we're all volunteer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Kenny and I are paid, but we're just paid to be the technical guys.
Right.
And so I said, hey, we're really short for crew tomorrow.
Yeah.
Please call me.
Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
And I told him to come on down.
Yeah.
And he did.
Okay.
Originally, he said he wasn't going to come. He sent me an email saying, I don't think I'm going to make it. But then apparently he got in and he told the guys he's on the TV crew and they let him right through. And
wow.
And then his son came later on. But he said to Jimmy, and I sitting there and I just started, I try not to laugh.
Okay, go ahead.
He said, if I had known how hard this was.
There it is.
Just to cover and how much technical expertise you guys put into this, he said I would have never sent the email. I said I'm glad you did.
You know what? And I'm glad he learned.
I said I was upset, but I'm glad you did because you learned.
Yep.
And I said if you'd like to come volunteer, I'll stay in touch. And, there might be things you want to do, and we have equipment here. So.
Oh, my God, Pete, you know what? You should have gotten that on record because how many times have we said that? It is so easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, and, it is so difficult when you're in the trenches, and people have no idea. People have no idea, just what
to put this on.
Just what the prep
right
is. Right, exactly. What the prep is. It's about 3 hours of preparation for me every single week. And people are like, you do this every week? And on top of that, like you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning every week, and you're doing it every day.
And I not only
crazy.
I have to fix anything that goes wrong here, even if it's when I walk in the door at 20 minutes to 6.
Oh yeah.
Like this morning, I didn't have YouTube access, so I had to reboot stuff and get it working before we went on the air.
Yep.
So there's always something. But
Exactly.
I mean, a heck of a job. We had all of our cameras on Saturday. We had
So
2
cool.
cameras on the airfield.
The camera work was great, Pete. I
We
mean,
did
you
the
know
best
what
we could on
what
Sunday.
I saw.
It was
on-
all us old people.
Well, and you know, Carol had asked me, my principal clerk who was watching all this, she said, who was doing all the commentating? I said, Pete had a variety of people in and out, so I said, I don't know when, like on which days or whatever.
In the mornings, the first morning, we had Lynn O'Brien, Steve Donnelly, and Dan Knapik.
Okay.
The second morning, Sunday, we had Bobby Goff and Lynn O'Brien and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had Doug Moglin from Southwick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He came over. He's like, I got to see your operation. So he came over and volunteered half a day on
Okay.
Sunday.
Nice.
But, you know, Curtis Elmer, I'll give him so much credit. That kid locked into the remote camera, and he was tracking 777s at 40,000 feet above the air show.
Wow.
And then the Knapik boys just took to the manned camera,
Yep.
and they were able to track jets at 300, 400 knots. I mean, they
Nice.
did a great job on Saturday.
Good.
Sunday, we were struggling because Phil, the guy that complained, and his
Yeah.
son just had a real tough time
Yeah.
figuring out the camera.
Yeah.
And so we did the best we could. I mean,
Yep.
I hope we did a good job for everybody.
I-
I'm going to replay
great.
the Saturday show with a couple of edits from Sunday because we interviewed Jason Flood, who's one of the performers on Sunday, which I want to include on the Saturday show. We were on the air for almost 10 hours.
Yeah.
10, 12 hours.
Yeah. That is a long time to be on the air for sure.
Right.
It is. That's a long time. 2 hours is a long time, so I can't even imagine 5 times that.
Right, and then
It's just
but
a
the
long
last time we
time.
did this, we didn't have the video component, with just the radio. So
Yep.
when we turned it over to the show announcer, we all put out our lawn chairs and
Right.
and watched the show.
Right. Yeah.
This time we continued to direct and produce and everything else. You know, I fed the crew both days, and
Yeah.
you know, just because I was appreciative for them being there, and the restaurant and the building was closed, so it was
Yep.
just us.
Yep.
So we brought coolers, and Bobby Goff went out and grabbed the pizza
Nice.
for us on Sunday,
Nice.
and he brought sandwiches on Saturday. So it was we had a
Nice.
good time, and yeah,
Yeah.
everybody did a great job.
Yeah. Well,
Next up, graduation,
I
both of them.
know. I know. And
and
now,
then the day after that's the Brewfest.
And I know, right? So graduation, the TECA graduation is June 1st. I know that because it's the same day as the Pride flag raising.
Right.
So there was some issues with that.
I
And
told
then-
I told Kai if she wants to cover it, one of our students.
Yes.
I'm like, she's gonna have to do it on her own because
Yes.
I've got graduation.
And I'm in on all of those committee meetings, as
Yeah.
you know, I'm on the committee. So, and I told them that. I said, Pete and Kenny are like, forget it, because they have graduation. And then is Westfield High the next day? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the day after that's the Brewfest.
The day after that is
And
all
I was gonna
kinds
cover
of stuff.
I was gonna cover the bands, but I'll see how fried I am after those 2 days.
Yeah.
Because Jay's gonna be the same thing. Jay's got 2 days of graduations, and then he's doing the audio for the Brewfest. So we're all gonna
Okay.
be toast.
Yep. And they're doing Pride Art out on the green on June 3rd. So there's a
Okay.
lot, and
Yeah.
there's some other stuff going on. I want to say either the Athenaeum or the Boys and Girls Club. There's stuff going
Yeah,
on. Like
they have their
crazy.
comedian thing. Yeah, they have Michael
Oh, and
Winslow.
the yes, and the YMCA thing.
Isn't that like that?
I don't-
Isn't that Saturday night, or is
I
it the
don't
week
know.
after?
I'm not sure about that one. I don't have the invitation.
Yeah, it's
with
Michael
me.
Winslow from Police Academy, the guy of 1,000 Voices.
Yeah. And speaking
gonna
of the
be good.
guy of 1,000 Voices, I know Carol Palmer's going to talk about this when she comes on, and I'm probably going to steal her thunder, but she came in yesterday. So Carol Palmer's birthday was last week.
Yep.
And we didn't have any fitness classes last week. So we had, we always get it, we always have a card, and we sign the card from all the staff. So when she came in, Mary Lou and I were at the front desk, and we gave her her card. And so I said to her, "Did you do anything special for your birthday?" And she said, "Well, I went to Vegas." So, and she said,
she is a Vegas pro like Kenny.
well, she said, I asked her, I said, "Have you been there before?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Everybody should go to Vegas at least once in your life just to see what it is." She goes, "It's every walk of life. It's every crazy thing." Right?
I want to go again, but now that I know, been there once,
Yes.
I know right where I want to go for what we like to do.
But here's what this was. So I said to her, "Well, while you were there, did you do anything, different or especially fun for your birthday?" She said, "We saw Rich Little perform."
Oh,
Now,
he's still alive? Wait a minute. He's still alive?
That is what Mary Lou and I said. And of course, we both said anybody under the age of 50 isn't going to know who Rich Little is, I don't think, or 45.
Probably not, no.
And as Carol said, and as Rich Little himself said, anybody under the age of 50 isn't going to know who I'm impersonating, because it was a lot of people,
true.
She said I would have loved to see him. She said he was fabulous. And she was at a smaller venue, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
So she said it was like, there were probably only like 30 people in the venue because it was just a small place. And she said, we were like right there, right in front. He's interacting with Rock Palmer, and
Rock is a ham anyways.
He
so.
is. And so I'm sure Rich kind of picked up on that, because Carol said they were like right in the front row.
Yep.
I said that was like, I thought that was the best part. So I'm sure she'll tell you all about it when she's on the show on the Joe show in a few weeks. But so that sounded so cool. So anyway, that's our big birthday for the senior center. That was last week. Carol's birthday was last week. So, all right. I just realized there's we have a couple of clocks here, and there's one that's blocking the big clock that I really like to use. So I'll have to move that. And it's a little too early to bring in our
He's out there.
I know he's out there.
He's walking across now.
He is walking across, because I was going to say, sometimes he's Dr.
I got to talk to him for a minute anyway.
Dr. Akinyele Lovelace is our resident primary care physician. He is on this first hour. So let me just do a
couple of
do a little intro for him, in that Dr. Lovelace was not on last month with us because we had to cancel that show because Pete was away. We did a best of show. Pete was at one of the launches. But the month before, which was March, it was actually Kidney Month. March was National Kidney Month. And Dr. Lovelace started doing a discussion on the kidneys and how they function and their importance. And then we just started to get into kidney disease, but we didn't have a whole lot of time on that. We talked a little bit about diagnosis. We talked a little bit about some other things. So we decided by the first break that we were going to make it a two-parter. So there's been a bit of a lag time. So everybody's had a couple of months to digest the first part of this. But we are going to continue with talking about the kidneys, even though it's no longer Kidney Month. But they are no less important during the month of May. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing that with Dr. Lovelace in just a couple of minutes. We're going to get into, we'll kind of do a bit of a review about, how the kidneys function. But then we're going to get into some treatment options for those with kidney disease. We're going to talk a little bit about kidney stones and what those are and why people get them. And we're going to talk a little.
I never have those. Those are painful.
I actually almost brought in a show and tell because I did have a kidney stone 2 years ago, and it was like almost as bad as being in labor. So
I've had gallstones, and I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah, so not fun. And we'll talk about dialysis and what that's all about and how people end up on that. So let's bring Dr. Lovelace in with his own special song, written and sung by his father-in-law, Diamond Temple, called "Call the Doctor." You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM. Radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be right back with Dr. Akinyele Lovelace.
Got this monkey on my back, got like nipping at my heels, turning on my wheels. What's this pain in my chest? No, I really don't want to gas. Appointment overdue. See, Joy Island when I woke up yesterday, and I can't remember if I took my meds today. It's alright, I won't remember anyway. Rock it like a two-step, then call the doctor. Then call the doctor. So we got a little foot pain, unexpected weekend. It's time to refresh
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:17. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles, who is behind the glass, and we have Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, our resident primary care physician, with us this morning from Family Medicine in Westfield. Good morning, Dr. Lovelace.
Good morning, Tina.
And how are you today?
Doing well.
You're doing well. You know what? When I got out of my garage this morning, it's like, wow, it's so light out now.
It's
beautiful. You know, I mean, it's really nice. Like, because remember in January when we were coming in,
it was dark.
It was like pitch black, and I'm going, oh my God, it's already bright.
Yeah,
feels great. Nice day. A
Excellent.
little on the cooler side today. We like that.
Love every part of that.
Yeah,
love
it's
every
really
part
good.
of that.
Did Christina have a nice Mother's Day?
She had a wonderful.
Did she have a wonderful Mother's Day?
It was absolutely fantastic.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Girls were well behaved, and everybody.
Everyone was doing well. You know, just to kind of follow up when I think about what you guys were talking about in regards to Vegas. There's a couple occasions that come to mind when you're talking about what you would see out there.
Yeah.
And the first time, and since
I've
it's
never
May,
been, so enlighten me.
Since it's May. I remember the first time we went as a family. I went to a convention, and it was during the Memorial Day weekend, and the girls were amazed, right? That on the street you had Transformers and you had angels, and it was spectacular.
So like Halloween all year long kind of thing, sort of?
Well, they'll just be vendors, right? There'll be vendors of all sorts when it comes to entertainment. And if you've never been into a larger city where there's a lot of people just on the street entertaining, and imagine if you're 3 or 4, you're like, wow, I didn't know, bumblebees outside handing out pamphlets on where I could go to the nearest pharmacy. So that was interesting. and then what made it cool, if we want to talk about characters and things to do, we ended up seeing Siegfried and Roy.
Okay.
But it was their they actually had a tiger and dolphin exhibit.
Oh, wow.
Which was super cool.
Yeah.
And so we even got to take pictures with the dolphins and their tigers.
Wow.
So that became a very interesting thing. And so the cool thing I would say about Vegas is that there are so many different options when it comes to just what is available to you and what's around. And then the spectrum of luxury that you can engulf yourself with is absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
So it's a fun time. And now that they've put a lot more sporting venues in the area, that's also changed the dynamic a bit. So I thought that's pretty cool. So always a fun time. Highly recommend not going when there's a big sporting event.
Yeah.
Because that could be very, very busy.
I just, I have this vision of just being really overstimulated because I just, my vision of Vegas, I mean, I have a hard time sometimes at the Holyoke Mall. I just get super over, and I don't know whether, I think I'm actually even more sensitive since the pandemic, and maybe that was because of so much kind of isolation and just being, with smaller groups.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So for me,
I'd have to prepare myself for that.
Well, for me, I tend to like to equate casinos to hospitals. You're in there, you're probably losing money, and you have no idea or concept of what time it is, right? Like so if you've dibble-dabbled in healthcare at all, you'll be okay, right?
Never thought about it that way.
I didn't either, but you know what? You are so right.
Because there's going to be bells and whistles, right? There's things that are going to be beeping.
Yeah.
There's probably somebody that's
people running around.
Yep. Someone who's probably disoriented.
Yep.
Right. And probably somebody that's been over medicated. Right.
Yep.
All classic things you'd see both in a casino in Las Vegas as well as your local community hospital.
Local hospital. I love it.
You're okay.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So speaking of hospitals, let's kind of switch gears a little bit to some of the medical stuff. So we started talking about the kidneys during March because March was National Kidney Month. You and I realized very quickly into it that this was going to have to be a two-parter because there's really a lot to talk about.
Always.
And I don't know that I don't know that I realized how important the kidneys are. So because it's been a couple of months, let's just start back. Let's do a little refresher before we take our first break for the next 5 minutes or so on kind of normal kidney functioning. What is the role? Why are kidneys so important? Let's start there. And then we're going to get into some of the things that we didn't get into last month about kidney disease and kidney stones and dialysis and treatment options.
Sure. Okay.
Right.
So kidneys, well, number one, kidneys, what do? They help regulate the fluid levels in your body.
Okay.
Right? I think that's the first thing. And why is that important? That's important because we're 70% water, right? So how do we balance that out, or what is the mechanism or the factory within our body that regulates that, and that's the kidneys. So that's one key thing. I think the other thing that we have to do or understand about our kidneys is that it helps us filter waste from the blood, right? So all those waste products that we make, or cells are created and cells die, all the time in our body, right? And so what is the primary thing that's going to help us eliminate those things, or those things that build up? It will be our kidneys. And so that's one thing to kind of keep in context with what our kidneys do. I think monitoring, or not monitoring, but blood pressure, regulating our blood pressure.
Yeah, that just blows me away.
Our kidneys are one of the main drivers, right? A good portion of the medications that we take that control blood pressure either work on our heart, sometimes on our arteries, and sometimes, and a good portion of them, work on our kidneys, right?
That little fun fact blows me away, because I think blood pressure, I think heart medication, period.
Yeah. We do.
I had no idea.
But there's such a fascinating relationship between your kidneys, your heart, your brain, and the arteries within your body, and they all have influence on our blood pressure. Which is pretty amazing when you think about how our blood pressures are affected, right? When we tell people, you want to eat a low salt diet or have low sodium in your diet, well, a lot of those electrolyte exchanges that occur, right? So that balance of minerals, vitamins and minerals in your body occur at the kidney level. Really, really important. Other things that your kidneys do, they actually help you produce red blood cells, right? So your blood cells that are actually being produced, a lot of the products that are required are generated in the kidneys, right? So the kidneys play a key role. The kidneys manage our fluid balance, or how much water's in our body. Our kidneys actually also help us with managing our blood pressure. On top of that, our kidneys also help us with making appropriate blood cells. So you could see how they play a key role in a lot of things that actually occur within our body on a daily basis.
Yeah. And we were talking a couple of months ago, Dr. Lovelace, on how do you know as a physician, and how would I know as a patient, whether or not my kidneys are functioning well or whether there's a problem? Like, is there it seems to me that there are tests that you run. Is that right?
There's tests.
I'm going back in my head 2 months ago.
There are tests and there are things you can look for. So I think when we're talking about tests, it's usually a blood test, number one, and it's a urine test, right? Those are the two key things that you can have checked to really evaluate how you're doing when it comes to kidney disease. Also, risk factors play a role, right? So our risk factors are always going to include family history.
Okay, so if you have people in your family that have had kidney problems, there's a likelihood that you got to be careful.
Your age, so if you're over the age of 60, that's something to take into account. If you've had hypertension in the past, or elevated blood pressure, and diabetes, right? I think those are some key factors when talking about who's at risk for developing kidney disease. But primarily, to answer your question, it's usually just a simple blood test and a simple urine test.
And are those, like, if somebody goes for their routine physical, are those tests done routinely or are they not done routinely? Do you as a physician say, well, let's look at the risk factors, and then obviously if you've got the risk factor, we're going to run these, or would that happen anyway?
So the majority of the time when you're doing a basic lab test, the kidney function is on the test.
Good.
So that's the majority of the time. Now, for a lot of issues that most people have, we tend to have to check that, right? So if you've got a known history of blood pressure, or if you're just taking medications.
Well, that's my thought. I was thinking, but if you're on medication, wouldn't you want to know, right?
If you're taking meds, because a lot of times medications also have to be adjusted based on your kidney function. So if you're taking more than 2 or 3 medications on a routine basis, you probably need your kidneys checked at least once a year.
Because the kidney, and just to come full circle, because the kidneys are sort of acting as a filtering system. Is that?
That's right. They are that coffee filter, right? Yeah. And so what is passing through them is extremely important to know, and whether or not you need to technically change the filter or, work on the filter isn't a key thing to kind of understand. So yes, a lot of things pass through our kidneys at the end of the day.
All right. So now we take you take the test. You take the test, and what if you find what I like to call a hiccup in there? So it's not within the normal range. Are there degrees of kidney disease and kidney problems?
Yeah, there are stages to kidney disease.
Okay.
And we stage them 1 through 5.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
So there are stages. There are numbers.
Okay.
And these numbers are based on how well they are filtering. Right?
Okay.
And then
what's better?
So what you want to see? Great question, right? So
what's good? 1 or 5?
So good is 1.
Okay.
Good is 1.
Okay.
Bad is 5. And technically, really, you don't want to be staged at all.
No, I understand.
But you're right. What will happen is you'll look at you and your provider will look at your blood work, and you'll kind of look at the number, and there'll be a couple of numbers that you'll look at, but there'll be one that it says GFR, right? And that range will give the provider an idea as to what to anticipate or what are the things that need to be done in order to help slow the rate of decline in your kidney function. Like a lot of things in our body, they kind of will just continue to age, right? And so we just need to monitor and watch that. And that's typically what's done. Now, what do we do when that's identified?
Yeah.
Well, it really depends on what we're seeing in some of the other tests. But the majority of the time, it's going to be, how are we doing with our blood pressure? How are we doing with our diet? How are we managing our blood sugars? How are we doing with our anti-inflammatory intake, right? So those NSAIDs or those ibuprofens, Aleve,
gotcha. Okay.
right?
Yep.
What are we doing there that could also be impacting our kidney function in an adverse way? How can we adjust those and really pay attention to those? And then once you get to the levels where they're starting to say that you have, if we're to look at a range of the numbers, right? And so once you get to like a little bit of a cutoff area, there might even be a suggestion to say, well, hey, maybe we just need to have a discussion with a kidney doctor or a nephrologist. And that's a good thing, because you want your provider to be a little bit proactive if they've identified that there has been a decline in your kidney function. Let's just say we started 100%, but then all of a sudden now we're down to less than 60%, right? I think once we kind of get to that number, maybe you want to say, hey, do I need to see a kidney doctor? And the response from the provider should be yes, we should. We should at least have the conversation, because there's some things you want to avoid going forward in relationship to kidney disease. If we want to get to that, that's something else we definitely could talk about.
Okay, that's a good segue. We're at exactly 6:30, so I do want to talk about that, and that's what we're going to talk about when we come back.
Sounds good.
So if you're just joining us, my guest this morning, first hour, is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. The topic today is kidney disease, kidney function. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So you know what? This is a nostalgic one for you, Dr. Lovelace. This used to be Dr. Lovelace's theme song coming in, and I love this song. It's by the Doobie Brothers, so we're going to bring it back just for this one time. It's called The Doctor. We'll be back.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. We like to call him our resident primary care physician because he's been with us for many years. Wow. The topic this morning is kidneys and kidney function, kidney disease, kidney treatments. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. But I do want to start, Dr. Lovelace, on if we get the test back, and as you said, there's kind of a range if there's a problem, kind of 1 through 5, 1 being the lesser of the problems and 5 being some pretty severe things going on. I want to start with that, number 1 range. So if I see you and I may be, just to clarify too, because I think we talked about this in March, I may actually be asymptomatic, right? I may not, if I have some problems, I may not even realize I have some problems.
The majority of the time, most people are like, wait, my chart says I have kidney disease? Right. What is this,
yeah.
right? So
I feel okay. What do you mean?
I feel fine. There's nothing wrong. And I agree with that. And I think the majority of the time, if you're at 1 technically means you're normal, right? Like your kidney function is good. It's greater than, like, so the objective is for it to be greater than 90%. Let's just say that, right?
Okay. Yep.
And that's good. And I think a lot of times what we're looking for is are you producing, or is there any excess amounts of protein in your urine?
Okay.
Is the key thing that we're looking for. And so how do we stay at, stage 1 or stage 2 or stage 3, right? A lot of times that has everything to do with how you're taking care of your blood pressure, right?
Okay.
So your blood pressure is the key driver in all of this, right? If we're just someone who just has kidney disease based on blood pressure or just in general, you just found out, a lot of times it has everything to do with the amount of pressure that's required to help your body filter, right? Okay. So I always equate it to, it's always nice when you're drinking. Well, I used to remember being able to drink from the water fountain, right? And so the water fountain is a nice little, it comes out and it hits your lips and it's all nice and soft and gentle, as opposed to drinking from a fire hose.
Right. I was going to say, like, fire hydrant, right?
That's going to hurt, right? Like, that's going to hurt, right? And but you can imagine that over time, that wear and tear of that high velocity or that high pressure that's being created from that fire hydrant that you decided to drink from is going to ultimately start to damage your mouth, right? And that same type of tissue also is what's used in the kidney. And so the key thing to kind of keep in mind here is we just have to be mindful of our blood pressure.
Okay.
Right? That's the first step. And then exercise, what we eat in regards to sodium content, and if you can drop a couple of pounds, that always helps as well.
So some of the key things for, this is all interrelated. Diabetes and blood pressure and kidneys, it's not like, well, if you want to keep your blood pressure in good check, you do this. And if you want to keep your diabetes in good check, you do that. And if you want to keep your kidneys, it's like all related.
They all have. They all are related because absolutely. They all. I think what we continue to need to emphasize is that we are a beautiful combination of events that occur all at the same time, and everything has a relationship. Your kidneys produce hormones, right? Your heart produces hormones, and they all interact with each other. And if one is struggling, it's going to impact everyone else that's involved. And so that It's a very important concept. So yes, it does sound like sometimes we're repeating the same things, but it's because they all are working in harmony.
Yeah. And sometimes I think sometimes for, the layperson, that's a bit of a hard concept because in medicine, we have so many different specialists. We have cardiologists and we have nephrologists. We have a heart doctor and we have a kidney doctor and we have a urologist, and so you sometimes tend to think that these things are very separate. Well, I'll go to this doctor to fix this, and I'm going to go to that. But that's not really how it works. I mean, those doctors specialize in those areas, but, your body is this amazing harmony. It's just, it's everything's working in harmony.
I look to the specialist for guidance on helping us make a better decision about our health.
Okay.
And that's what I utilize them for. And I think getting their opinion is extremely important.
Yeah.
But I think the purpose of getting their opinion is to give us insight as to how we could make tangible change in our everyday life. And I think that's what needs to happen. And then ultimately, you still have to put it all together and put the parts together. Well, I have my cardiologist, I have my urologist, I have my neurologist. Like we have all these ologists, but ultimately, it's still just one body that we're focused on, right? And so we still have to keep the focus on that in order to kind of make the best decision for what we need to do that fits into our lifestyle. And I think that's the most important part of all of this.
Yeah. I think the other thing, too, is that, the good news is that as you're doing all of this, you are, because everything works in harmony. So if you're getting your kidney stuff under control, it means you're getting your blood pressure stuff under control, which means means you're getting your heart stuff. It's like, it's good for all of it.
And I think maintenance is really important. I tell a lot of people, I said, hey, what year is your car?
Yeah, exactly.
You drive a car that was made in 1943, and most of them look at me in a weird way. And I say, well, if you did have a car that was made in 1943, you probably would have to take it to get maintained or fixed a little bit more frequently than a car that you might have just bought in 2023. And they all understand that. And so I think if you kind of look into that concept that there's a lot of moving parts and there is some wear and tear that's just going to occur with everyday life, and every now and then they just need a little bit of a checkup or a tune-in.
You are rocking on the analogies.
I do this for a living, Tina.
I am. You know what?
I have it all day.
I think that is a sort of people in the healthcare profession, because my husband Gary, who's a chiropractor, is also really good with analogies, and I think you're right. Part of it is because you do this all day long, because it's things that we understand.
Well,
who doesn't understand an old car? It's like, yeah. Would I never take it to have the oil changed? Would I? Of course not. You wouldn't. If you didn't use it, you'd lose it. It wouldn't. You would go out to the garage and it wouldn't start.
Correct. And I think that's the.
Well, here we are.
Here we are. And I think communicating that and making sure that we find a way to meet people where they're at and their level of understanding, I think is extremely important.
Yes.
Because, me going to school and me being called a doctor means nothing if I can't communicate to you about what it is I actually learned about.
Right. And I like to think that that's one of the things that I try to do on this program is ask the questions that I think somebody sitting across from you in your office would say, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that acronym stand for? What are those letters? Let's get into kidney stones.
Oh.
We have to talk about kidney stones, because 2 years ago, I woke up and I thought I was dying. And it turned out that I had a kidney stone. I didn't know that. I'd never had one. I had never had any symptoms or anything, but holy smokes. And I know of other people who had, and I know people said, oh, it's so painful. But what, and I was, I got a crash course in kidney stones in the emergency room. But why do people get kidney? And some people get them a lot, I understand. I'm so far lucky. But
so people get kidney stones for a variety of different
reasons.
reasons. Some people can get them from having an infection. Some people can have them because of how their bodies produce certain minerals and how they excrete them.
Okay.
And so it can be a collection of extra sediment that exists in your urine. Some people can get them because of what they're eating in their diet. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, you're going to see more kidney stones this time of year because it's getting warmer.
Yeah.
Hydration status sometimes tends to be compromised when people are outside in the sun and they're not aware of how much fluid they've lost.
Yep.
And the increased intake in meat, right? So we tend to think, well, people are outside more. We're going to have more barbecues.
Yeah, they're grilling.
We're going to be grilling.
Yeah.
The likelihood that there's the likelihood that there's more vegetables than meat on the grill is pretty low.
Yeah.
And so that combination of decreased fluid intake, or the fact that you're just losing more fluid, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're outside in the sun. The increase in animal protein, non-dairy, all are risk factors to kind of making you produce more kidney stones. Now, some people can produce kidney stones also based on the type of medications they take.
Oh,
and so there is an influence of that as well, but that's extremely rare.
Okay.
The majority of the time, people are going to get kidney stones because they have a family history of just having extra sediment in their urine, like just a little bit more than most.
Yep.
And then when that happens, we may not be drinking enough fluid.
Yeah.
That sediment collects, and then you start to make them. And that's painful because a lot of times with kidney stones, for men, it's the closest thing they can get to having a baby, right? And for women, I apologize if you've had children and you've had kidney stones in your lifetime. That sounds absolutely miserable.
Yeah, they're kind of on par.
It's
believe it or not.
Yeah. So kidney stones. So and we see it pretty frequently. Like it's a common thing. And what usually happens is you'll come into the doctor's office, you'll say, oh my goodness, I'm having all this pain. I've never had this pain. Yep. Oh my God. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. We usually check a urine. Typically what we're going to see small amounts of blood in your urine.
Yep.
Right? Because the stone might be in there smashing around in your urogenital tract. And you're like, oh, this isn't good. And so you typically want to make sure that they're hydrated. You want to make sure that they've got maybe even a little bit of an antibiotic. And hopefully they pass that stone. Now, there is a limit to how big that stone can be.
Yeah.
If the stone typically is greater than 5 millimeters. Now, we're talking, millimeters. We're talking a piece of sand.
Yeah.
But that causes, for a lot of people, an excruciating amount of pain.
Oh, God, yeah.
If it becomes greater than that, then the consideration has to be made to actually having somebody to go in and remove it.
Yeah.
And that becomes dicey as well, because now you have to go to the hospital for someone to remove a stone. But it also can be a issue from a healthcare provider perspective where you can actually see the results immediately, right? The stone gets removed. The person, there's a little bit of blood in their urine. They feel kind of miserable, but they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the good thing. But for some people, they just have a predisposition to just making more stones, and so they have this routine relationship with what's called a urologist. So that would be the person that would go in and remove these stones. And sometimes they have to get it a little bit more frequently than most. Yeah. So it's an unfortunate situation. It does happen. I do anticipate seeing it much more now that it's getting warmer. So I encourage everyone to continue to increase their fluid intake.
Drink
because
your water.
That's going to be huge.
I'm sure that's what it was for me.
That's what it's going to be. So that's where
well, I was absolutely I had them totally cracking up in the ED because I'd never had a kid. I knew nothing about this. And of course I had 1,000 questions. So while I'm, writhing in pain, and yes, they found it, they took the x-rays and everything. So then they gave me this little screen so that, possibly I could catch, because I said to him, and I said, well, what is this going to be like when I pass this stone? I mean, am I gonna, I had no idea. How big are we talking about? I'm thinking a stone. I'm thinking it's gonna be like this big. And I said, am I gonna hear it clank in the toilet? Well, I thought the ED doc was just gonna fall over a lot. He was hysterical. I said, am I gonna hear that? How am I gonna know? And he said, no. He said, Tina, it's not a boulder.
No, it's not.
Yeah. But believe it or not, I was able to catch mine in my screen.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, it was hysterical because once that passed, I literally went out for a run. About an hour later, I was like, I feel great. I mean.
That's exactly what's supposed to happen.
Oh, my God, yeah.
I think
felt great.
The key part to catching the stone is that it then gives us some more information about the makeup of the stone. Yeah. Right.
And the only reason I kept it, I have it in my little, in a little medicine bot thing. And my only thing was that if I develop another kidney stone, I wanted, and I did, I ended up not seeing anybody about it because it was like a one-shot deal. And it was in July. I mean, it was right in the height of the summer, height of the heat. And I know, for me, I know I have to be so careful about drinking water, so careful, because, you know, if I'm not thirsty, like a lot of people, so I just have to be much more conscious. And I think probably next month we're going to do something on dehydration, because I think
it's a great idea.
Really getting, you know, that's so important.
Still want to encourage getting that stone checked out. And the reason is because the issue can be your calcium intake, right?
Okay.
So calcium, a lot of times the stones that we produce have a lot to do with calcium.
Okay.
Right? And how we metabolize calcium is extremely important. And so if you're a person that might have excessive amounts of calcium that's being that's being eliminated in their urine, then your calcium intake, or how you take in calcium, so that's dairy, that's cheese, right? They sometimes supplement it. You might have to alter
that a little.
Change where you may have to drink more calcium, or you might have to take less calcium, believe it or not. So it's always interesting. Yes, obviously, if you just have one, it's the heat of summer, it makes perfect sense and there's nothing else to do. But I agree, if it comes back, or if you were able to catch it, that's always that kind of gets neurologists excited.
I was pretty excited.
It's sometimes worth getting the understanding as to what the actual makeup of that stone was.
Yeah, and here's the thing that, you know, here's the kicker. It's just, this thing came, and it is like the size of a pinhead.
It's like sand.
It's even less than sand. And I'm looking at this going, I cannot believe that this tiny little thing caused so much pain, because you would swear while you were going through this that it was a rock in you like this big. You know,
and imagine there are some people that have like thousands of these.
Well, that's what I was talking to Julie Barnes, who's the director of Veteran Services, and she was saying she has, I don't know whether it was one of her sisters or one of her relatives who gets them all the time. I said, what? I mean, I'm relatively healthy, so I don't generally have to deal with this, but I said, I can't imagine.
It is.
So some people are really prone to it.
Yeah, and it is tough.
Okay, Dr. Lovelace, let's talk a little bit about, because we have a few minutes left, but let's talk a little bit about kidney dialysis. How do people end up on dialysis? I'm going to guess you're on that 1 to 5 spectrum. You're on 5 is my guess. And what is dialysis? And can you eventually go off of dialysis, or is it kind of like once you're on, that's it? So let's talk about that.
So great question. So when we're looking at the spectrum of disease, when we're talking about where you're at from stages, right? So we said there's stages 1 through 5. Dialysis is that last stage, right? So that's stage 5. And I think the key thing to kind of understanding with dialysis is that, well, number one, what is dialysis?
Yeah.
Dialysis is basically when the filtering system of your body, which is your kidneys, no longer can do that function effectively.
Okay.
Right? You may not be able to pee as much as you used to, or the amount of urination that you make is extremely low, or you're not urinating at all.
Yeah.
When that happens, in order for you to stay alive, those toxins need to be eliminated from your body. And so that's the value of dialysis. Okay. Now, can you ever come off dialysis? Well, if you get a kidney transplant, you can come off dialysis.
Okay.
For some people, sometimes if they've had an injury to their kidneys, sometimes they're put on dialysis early, just to kind of give the kidneys a rest.
Okay.
And sometimes their kidney function comes back.
Okay.
So those are some key things that help that can kind of come into play with dialysis. Other key factors that would lead someone to be put on dialysis also have a lot of things that have nothing to do with their kidneys.
Oh, okay.
How is your access to nutrition? How is your access to your healthcare provider? How is your fluid intake? Are you someone that has access to clean water? Were you able to take all your medications throughout this entire process, right? So the goal here is that a lot of times if we can identify the patients who've got a kidney stage somewhere in the 3s and the 4s, a lot of times with just the appropriate medical management, we can prevent a lot of people from needing dialysis if we're just a little bit more aware and in tune to it.
Yeah.
Now, the types of dialysis, there's a few, right? There's the one that we think of where the person goes and they get plugged in to that machine and it plugs their blood and it filters it that way. Other people will also get dialysis through their belly. Where they'll put it's called peritoneal dialysis, where they'll hang these bags of fluid, and these bags of fluid will go into their belly, and there's certain parts of your belly that we can utilize as a filter. And then from there we can actually filter your blood through your belly with this fluid. And so there are ways in which you could do dialysis even at home.
I was going to ask, is that done? Do you go someplace, or you can actually do that at home?
You can do this at home. So there's a variety of options that are out there and afforded to us when talking about dialysis. But ultimately, it's the conversation about what happens when our kidneys have completely failed.
Yeah.
And what will that life look like for me going forward, right? And so will I be okay with going to a place 3 times a week, or would I prefer to do it at home, or would I prefer to do nothing at all? So those are conversations that I have, whether it's been a family member or my own patient. And I think understanding where you're at in the spectrum of kidney disease is extremely important. Leading up to that, though, it should be something that you've been being prepared for. So when you are identified as having your kidney function being a little bit on the lower side, we'll say stage 4, we'll stay right in that area, maybe even a low stage 3. You want to start having this conversation with your kidney doctor, because then you're going to have to talk about, well, what are my options here? Am I somebody that would be ideal for dialysis? What does that entail? Well, that will entail that you'll have to have a specialist put in what's called an access point in your arm, or sometimes in your leg, but preferably in your arm. And that takes time to mature, right? Because they're going to take an artery and a vein and they're going to make a connection. And so you really want to plan for this. What you want to avoid is not doing anything, denying that you've been told that you might have a problem with your kidneys, and then ultimately emergently being thrown into the hospital because you no longer can pee. You're confused. Your blood pressures are out of control. And so, and bad things happen when that occurs. And so it should be something that we identify, have a conversation about, and plan for accordingly. And that's kind of the key thing when talking about dialysis, the effects of it, and what we can do prior to.
Now, for somebody who, and I know I supervised when I was teaching at Springfield College, I supervised one of my interns was working at the dialysis center in Springfield at the time. So I know it's a lengthy process. I mean, when people go in and you have to do it so many times a week, and it's not like you're in and out in 10 minutes. It's several hours that you're just kind of sitting there. When you do it at home, is it the same, Dr. Lovelace? Is it it's a procedure that takes a while to do this sort of exchange of filtering?
It does. It does take a while. It takes at least a couple of hours. We're 4 to 6 hours, just depending upon how much fluid was recommended for you to exchange. So, and it can't be a fast thing. It's not like you go to the gas station, right?
It's like, fill her up.
This is a process because, our kidneys are always working.
Yes.
No matter what we're doing, whether we're awake or whether we are asleep, they're always working. And so when they stop working, we kind of have to dedicate some time for what we do on a daily basis.
And I'm also curious as a doctor, maybe, you're not a patient that's had kidney dialysis, but if you're having dialysis, say 3 times a week, usually I think that's kind of the standard.
Correct.
On the days before you're going for dialysis, are you starting to feel kind of sluggish and yucky, or does the dialysis hold for those in between days?
The dialysis holds.
Does it hold pretty well? Good.
For a lot of people, they actually feel it's usually the day the day they get it.
Yeah.
And right after that, sometimes they don't feel so good.
Okay.
Just because you've pretty much been, imagine the majority of your blood's been taken out and then cleaned and then thrown back in you at a very interesting rate and pace that your body's not used to. And so for a lot of people after dialysis, they actually don't feel so hot, and then they kind of need to take a rest, and then they kind of bounce back. So no, the days now, if you miss a day or two,
Yeah.
If you come off your schedule,
Yeah.
that's when you could start feeling yucky. So if you've missed a day or 2 or 3, then you'll start to feel yucky. Maybe your thought process is off, or some other things can happen. And so that's typically what I say.
So people can go on dialysis if they're waiting for a kidney transplant.
Absolutely.
And sometimes do people get kidneys from relatives?
Absolutely.
Like I've heard that, right?
Absolutely.
So if a relative donates a kidney, because we have 2 kidneys.
Correct.
We talked about that last couple months ago. And you can survive on one,
That's
clearly,
right.
if somebody's donating a kidney. But how dangerous is that for the donor? I mean, you know what I mean? In the long run, presumably somebody who donates is
there's not really that much of a danger.
I guess my thing is how risky is it to just function with one kidney once you give one up?
You could do just fine.
Okay.
You could do just fine with one kidney.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to have both, right? I think
Yeah.
that would be ideal, but you can function just fine, right? People donate their kidneys. Some people donate kidneys to their children, and we're talking.
Yeah.
I've seen someone in their late 60s donate a kidney to their daughter who is in their 40s, right? So, and they're still doing just fine, right? They're still going on cruises and hanging out. So, yeah. But prior to all of that being done, you would have been evaluated very extensively by the kidney transplant team, right? They have these conversations with these families. But yeah, you can do very well if you donate a kidney, and it's a very admirable thing to do. And I definitely respect and have a real appreciation for people that decide to do it, and I could also understand for why people don't want to do it.
Well, and that kind of just brings up my final question, because we're running out of time, even though I still have about 17 questions left. But because I just realized we're talking about kidney disease, we talked about lab tests to determine that. Do people typically have the same level of disease in both kidneys if they have kidney problems? Or could it be that one kidney is more diseased than the other? One is better functioning than the other? Or do they kind of work in tandem? What's your experience with that?
So if we're talking about, good question. What I would say is if we're just talking about chronic kidney disease in relationship to blood pressure and everyday life, the answer is they're going to be about the same.
Okay.
Right? They're going to be about the same.
Yep.
There are other disease processes that can affect the kidney where one kidney could be better off than the other, right? And for certain instances, that does occur. Certain types of kidney cancers, certain types of cystic kidney disease, where you could see how one kidney's doing better than the other.
Or I would also think like in an injury, like if you've been in an accident or something like that, it could be one, depending on impact or whatever.
So.
Okay.
But they still work in harmony in that way, just because of how they communicate. So there can be, but the majority of the time, they're usually pretty routine,
pretty much
and work together in synchrony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Lovelace, this is so interesting and so fascinating. Just the workings of the human body are just fascinating. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, schooling us on all things kidney. I think that next month we will tackle hydration.
It's about that time.
Yeah, it is about that time.
It'll be June. Let's
it'll
get
be
hydrated.
mid-June, and let's get hydrated.
Because I always have a beef with Gatorade and Powerade, and
we're going to talk about why.
Talking about why we need to take it or not.
Okay. All right.
Great
Sounds
idea.
good. Thank you so much. My guest this morning has been Dr. Akindele Lovelace, who is with Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield, the Pink Flamingo building, that's out on Route 20.
Tubbs, get the car.
There it is. I had to say it so that he would say it. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back after our top of the hour break.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield. Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:06. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
Are you waking up in there?
Yeah, I'm trying to coordinate next week because it's going to be a little crazy. I'm writing my email to the mayor saying I need time off for this, and this is why I need this. And
yeah. Now, are you going to be here next Wednesday morning? Because I know you're.
I will be here next Wednesday morning, and then I'm taking Wednesday afternoon off. And Thursday and Friday because I have 2 family funerals in 2 states.
I know and 2
one in Maine and one here.
Yeah, and it's not like right over the Maine border either. It's a bit of a commute.
It's up by the Oxford Plains Speedway, which is a bit of a haul.
Yeah, it's a bit of a haul. So lots going on, and it's that time of the year. You know, Pete and I were talking about it. It was the air show, all these community things. We're going to talk about some of the community events going on in Westfield. Yep. So lots of stuff. Let's do a couple of birthdays before we get into all of those announcements about some fun things going on. So today is May 17th. It is the birthday of Sugar Ray Leonard, boxer, born on this day in 1956 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Sugar Ray is 67 years old today. He won the gold medal in light welterweight boxing at the 1976 Olympic Games, and then he went pro the following year. In his 1987 defeat of marvelous Marvin Hagler for the World Boxing Council's middleweight title is considered one of the greatest professional boxing matches of all time. Leonard retired in 1997 and was inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame. And here's what I'll say about Sugar Ray Leonard. I am not a boxing fan at all. However,
he's got a magnetic personality.
He was amazing. I was glued, as were a lot of people, to the 1976 Olympics. It was my first year in college, and I remember at the time I was visiting my college roommate, my new BFF, Linda Pesci, who lives in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, grew up in Lancaster, and so I was visiting her. We were watching the Olympics, and I just remember Sugar Ray, and that was an amazing story. So that he was a special boxer to watch. It is also the birthday of songwriter and singer Enya. She was born on this day in 1961 in Donegal, Ireland. She's 62 years old today. Born into a family of musicians, Enya played keyboard alongside her siblings in the Irish band Clannad before pursuing a solo career. Her first success as a soloist was producing television scores for the BBC. Enya's debut album, Watermark, which came out in 1988, blended Celtic folk songs, synthesized backdrops, and her otherworldly vocals to create a distinctive sound that some describe as New Age. The album sold more than 8 million copies and was followed by Shepherd Moons, which enjoyed even greater success. Other albums include Memory of Trees, Paint the Sky with Stars, which is one of the ones. I have a couple of hers, but Paint the Sky with Stars is one of my favorite. The Best of Enya, and then A Day Without Rain. In 2002, Enya contributed the hit score May It Be for the first Lord of the Rings film. So happy 62nd birthday to singer-songwriter Enya. You are now eligible to collect Social Security if you choose to do so.
I don't even know she's a U.S. citizen. Is she?
I don't know that, Pete. I was wondering about that myself after I said it. I thought, well, I don't
she's
know
still
that.
an Irish citizen.
Could be. But anyway, so that's that. All right, so we have some other birthdays and some other stuff to do, but we'll sprinkle those in. But in the meantime, so I stopped by the Senior Center, as I always do on my way in, and I got my copy of the Westfield News. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Michael Ballway, who is the managing editor at the Westfield News, because I submitted some pictures of our volunteers that we honored at the Senior Center with a breakfast 2 weeks ago. And the pictures are in today's paper on page 5. So we have some of our phenomenal volunteers in there. So thank you to Michael for getting those pictures in there for us. Yeah, it was really nice. But there's also a couple of front page articles that I want to talk about. One is called A Picture of Our Community, and it is about a concert, a free concert that's happening tonight. That's why I wanted to make sure I talked about it.
Right. I believe Kenny's going to be covering that.
Is he the Greater Westfield Community Band? It is at 7:30 tonight at Westfield High School, which is 177 Montgomery Road. And I didn't realize that the Greater Westfield Community Band was directed by Patrick Kennedy. For some reason, I thought somebody else was doing that.
Nope. He is. He's one of the driving forces behind that one.
And Will Cho. So directed by Patrick Kennedy and Will Cho. Free admission, handicap accessible. Bring a friend. Enjoy the music. 7:30 tonight. I just think that's phenomenal. And there's a couple of really nice pictures and a little write-up about it right on the front page of today's Westfield News. So that's tonight at 7:30 at Westfield High School, the Greater Westfield Community Band. So I think that is, as I'm looking at this picture, it's definitely multi-generational. So you have different, generations. It's not just students. We got all kinds of people here. Oh, yeah, because Kennedy said there are 11 former students of his in the community band.
Correct.
So all good stuff. The other thing that's happening tonight, which is, completely different than the musical end and the arts end, tonight, if you'll recall, a couple of weeks ago, I had Carmel Stager on the show. Carmel is chair of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. Tonight is the Ride of Silence. From 7 to 9 p.m., hosted this year by the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. The ride will begin at Westfield Middle School and travel on West Silver Street and Western Avenue, turning around near Westfield State University and then coming back. The Ride of Silence is an annual worldwide event. On the evening of the third Wednesday in May, cyclists will take to the roads in a silent procession to honor cyclists who have been killed or injured while cycling on public roadways. So that is tonight from 7 to 9, concert at 7:30. So we have all kinds of options for what you might like to do. There was an article also, which I haven't finished the whole article. I know that the police department has been looking for a new home, a new piece of property to build a new police building on. And one of the pieces of property that they've been looking at is the field near the middle school, which is where they usually do the 4th of July exhibit. And or the 4th of July fireworks. And, there's a little controversy there about whether that would be a good site or a bad site. You're right near a middle school. You're near Amelia Park ice skating rink. You're near the Children's Museum. It is a police station. So this article is kind of, would it be safer or not safer to have some of your not so upstanding citizens in and out of the police station and being that close to schools and so forth. So you can read all about that on the front page of today's Westfield News. All right, so let's take a break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday of Enya, we're going to listen to her from her Paint the Stars album. We're going to listen to her doing Anywhere Is. We'll be back.
Copywriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:19. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
I feel like there's a lot of activity going on here this morning.
Well, yesterday we had MCAS. So when they have MCAS on the academic side, there's a 3-hour delay in the shops.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So yesterday was quiet.
Yeah.
People were like, wow, it's really quiet around here.
I know, because today I feel like it's buzzing. I feel like, spring is in the air and people are buzzing all over.
A lot of activity.
Yeah,
well,
I
had to talk
it's kind of fun, yeah.
I had to talk to Kevin Grimsley about the mock interviews and how I did because it was my first time ever doing that.
Talk to me about that. You said you were doing mock interviews with, who were you doing them with?
Students.
Oh, the ITs. Okay, and so what were those about?
We had Sean Hogan was in here, General Dynamics.
Okay.
All companies that are pretty much hiring right now. The guy from Comark Transmitters was here. Hitachi.
Got it.
So, and I posted my job for the production associate. The part-time, basically what Kenny does.
Yep.
And so we did 5-minute mock interviews with the students, and we had to grade them on their, appearance and and knowledge of the job, and none of them read the job description, so they had no idea what they were interviewing for.
Yeah, you know what? But I think that's so better that they learn here.
Correct.
What you messed up on than out in the real world where you lose out on a job that you potentially could have been a great candidate for.
I stopped a couple interviews dead right in the middle of them, and I said, "You checked out."
Okay. Yep.
Because you're looking all over the place. You're not engaging me at all.
Yeah.
You've checked out. And I said, here's the thing, that if you interview for a job at a company, and that might not be the job you want, you don't get it or whatever, but you check out, if you will get there's a job that you want, that interview is going to remember that you checked out on them the first time.
Yep.
And you're probably not going to get the second job.
Absolutely.
Because of that, because people are people.
Yep.
And they don't like to be ignored.
Yep.
If you're wasting their time, you're not going to get the next job.
Yep. Here's the other thing, Pete, and I actually had this experience. If you make a good impression, like I can remember doing interviewing for information, just going on they didn't have a job. I literally had a guy sitting in his office. He was the executive director of some social service agency when we were out in the Boston area. In the middle of the interview, he picked up the phone. He said to me, wait right. He goes, just stay right here. He goes, don't move. Picked up the phone, called some other executive director from some other social service agency and said, I got a candidate in here. You got to interview her. I don't have a position. She's fabulous. I'm sending her down the street. I literally had that happen.
Yep.
And, you make a good impression. That word gets spread. And I've done it myself. I've been in the situation where I've called somebody and said, listen, I remember having a woman who interviewed for a position that we had years ago. We were still at the old senior center. She was way overqualified for the position that she was interviewing for. She could have taken my position. I still have her resume, and I've called her up if something came down the pike. Hey, are you, where are you in your life journey right now, in your career journey? Right. Because this position you'd be fabulous for, it hasn't worked out, but I swear to God, I would if she walked in today, I would hire her like that.
Right.
And funny thing was, she ended up in other agencies, and I interacted with her. It was like now she's director someplace, not at a COA, but some other agency. So I am so big on, I love the fact that you did mock interviews with these students, because I really feel like
Kevin Grimsley, because he really pushes for that.
So important.
Pushes for that. So they did a round robin. There was I think there was 10 of us from different companies, people representing companies.
Yeah. Just all things that students can learn. Yeah. And you're right, Pete. I mean, the first thing is know what you're interviewing for. I mean, I'm always impressed when people come in.
I got my
and
job
start,
description in, and
yeah,
one teacher, I give him grief because he didn't hand them all out.
He didn't hand them out.
But then some kids are like, well, we got a whole mess of them. We didn't read them all. I said, well, then you're not prepared.
Yep.
I mean, if we were in the real world, I'd just kick you out right now.
Yeah, it's like interview over.
You have no idea what you're interviewing for.
Yeah. Why
waste my time?
I had people come in to when we've interviewed.
I didn't because I wanted them to go through the experience.
Because, right, you want them to learn. But I'm always impressed when somebody interviews with us and they say, "Oh, well, I was on your website and I know this and this." Hey, they took an hour to zip through and read everything, and of course the newsletter's on the website, so that meant they've read all of that. And hey, somebody tells me that, I'm already impressed. We're already engaged. It's like, okay, you have a sense of what we do here.
Yep,
so important. So
there's a couple students that I'd love. I might set up a co-op with on the engineering side of the house to have them really come in here and learn the networking part of this and how the video equipment now, this could be a business that they didn't even think they could interact in.
Yes.
And yet they could.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, Pete. I love those stories.
Yep.
All right. So listen, we were talking before about the Ride of Silence, which is tonight from 7 to 9, starting at the middle school. But I also want to remind folks that the mayor's bike ride, Mayor McCabe's bike ride is happening next Wednesday. So it's a week from today, May 24th at 5:30 p.m. starting at City Hall. This is a family-friendly ride for everyone to enjoy. New this year, which is kind of cool, they're going to have a food truck and you'll celebrate with your fellow cyclists at the finish line. So that's the Mayor's Bike Ride, which is a week from today, May 24th at 5:30. So if you are a cyclist, you've got a couple of different things going on. You've got the Ride of Silence tonight from 7 to 9, and that'll be heading down West Silver Street from the middle school and then to Western Avenue down to the college, and then it's a down and back, and then you'll be coming back. All right, I have a birthday that coincides with May being National Inventors Month. So let's start with my birthday. It is the birthday of the late Frederick McKinley Jones. He was an inventor who was born on this day in 1893 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He died in 1961 at the age of 67. After a challenging childhood, Frederick Jones taught himself mechanical and electrical engineering, inventing a range of devices related to refrigeration, sound, and automobiles. Portable refrigeration units developed by Jones helped the United States military carry food and blood during World War II. In 1944, Frederick Jones became the first African American elected to the American Society of Refrigeration Engineers. In 1991, Frederick Jones was posthumously awarded the National Medal of Technology, becoming the first African American, to receive the honor. And I'm always fascinated with people who invent things, because when you think about it, pretty much everything that we use today was invented by someone. And so I kind of dovetailed this with May being National Inventors Month. So National Inventors Month, observed every May, celebrates human ingenuity. If it weren't for the creativity of inventors through the ages, we would still be traveling on horseback, writing with quills, and heck, tediously cutting a loaf of bread every morning. That's right. Someone came up with the idea of sliced bread, the breakfast staple we all take for granted. Most objects that we see around us today were the brainchild of folks who thought out of the box. Here's to the imaginations and courage of all inventors. And here's the history of National Inventors Month. National Inventors Month started as a collaboration between the United States Inventors Association of the USA, the Academy of Applied Science, and Inventors Digest. First recognized in August 1998 to celebrate creativity, ingenuity, curiosity, and the courage to experiment, National Inventors Month has continued to recognize the talented individuals who have changed history through their inventions. Then, in 2011, the decision was made to move National Inventors Month to May to coincide with the annual National Inventors Hall of Fame ceremony as well as to better align with the academic calendar. Celebrating Inventors in May allows teachers the opportunity to encourage innovation and creativity through invention while students are still in class. This is the time to draw attention to the contributions of men and women across the world and across the centuries. Since 1973, the National Inventors Hall of Fame has inducted over 600 individuals. This elite group of individuals are nominated and selected based on 4 different categories. 1, the inventor has to hold a U.S. patent. 2, their invention has made a significant contribution to society and or their industry. 3, the inventor has persevered to overcome obstacles on their journey. And 4, the inventor is also seen as a leader in their field, contributing to future generations of American inventors. So, happy National Inventors Month, and we celebrate that with the late Frederick McKinley Jones inventor. So we are going to take a break. It is 7:29. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday, I mentioned before that it is the birthday of Sugar Ray Leonard. We're going to listen to The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel. We'll be back.
I am just a poor boy, though my story is seldom told. I squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises. All lies and jest, still a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. When I left my home and my family, I was no more than a boy in the company of strangers, in the quiet of the railway station, running scared. Laying low, seeking out the poorer quarters where the ragged people go, looking for the places only they would know. Lie-la-lie, 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 lie-la-lie. Asking only workmen's wages, I come looking for a job, but I get no offers. Just to come home from the wars on 7th Avenue. I do declare there were times when I was so lonesome I took some comfort there. La 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 la. And I'm laying out my winter clothes and wishing I was gone, going home, where the New York City winters aren't bleeding me, bleeding me. Stands a boxer and a fighter by his trade, and he carries the reminders of every glove that laid him down or cut him till he cried out in his anger and his shame, I am leaving, but the fighter still remains. Lie, la, lie, lie, la, 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 lie, la, lie. Lie, la, lie, lie, la, 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 lie, la, lie, la, 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 la,
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning, Tina.
So I just wanted to let everybody know we have these. This is the brochure for this summer for Stanley Park 2023. We have them at the Senior Center.
This is got copies.
Oh my gosh, this is like they actually dropped them off, which was super nice. Thank you so much to. I'm not even sure who dropped them off for us, but thank you for that. I knew they were coming. This is like my Bible for my cable show here because it's got the schedule it's got the summer concert series on the lawn. It has the children's concert series. It has all of these different, Zumba and yoga in the park and walks around the park and Twilight in the park and, just all kinds of upcoming events and so forth. So I will be utilizing this because things will really start in earnest probably after June 1st, although they have already started Zumba. And, Zumba is May 9th through August 22nd, Tuesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. in the park, outside. And they've also started yoga because that just started. Yoga in the park, Thursday nights, 6 to 7, May 11th through August 24th. So those are and they're also doing their walks around the park. And this one I usually do announce early on because this is just a lovely time to be walking around Stanley Park. So it's Thursday mornings, and they just started last week, May 11th, and it'll go through the end of June, 9:30 to 10:30 in the morning. So, and I think that these are kind of informative walks. Yep. So, and I believe that you meet. I'm trying to see if it says where you meet because usually they used to meet at the Carillon.
By the way, if it gets a little noisy, Mr. Seklecki has to run the perforating machine.
Okay.
Which can get a little loud.
Okay. All right.
Just
no
You
worries.
know. If you hear weird noise.
If we hear weird noises,
that's
we'll know what that is. Okay. And okay. Yes. Okay. So here we go. Let me read this. So the walks will be held on Thursday mornings from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. These walking sessions are part of Stanley Park's health initiative to provide a beautiful environment in which to get some exercise. All abilities are welcome, and group ability level will determine the walking route, just depending on who's there, and it'll determine the walking route. Possible routes will be within the main areas of the park and or the wildlife sanctuary. Walking shoes are obviously recommended. As I said, I believe you meet at the Carillon. I will get that information, though, from someone from the park. Because I actually have a Run Stanley meeting this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
So I will ask them. Yeah, I'll just get an update on that because I'm not sure about where they meet. And I just want to make sure that I'm giving people the information.
It was funny. One of our students, Sophia, was coming up to the air show, and her dad texted me. And so I was explaining to her what she needed to do and what she needed to bring.
Yeah.
And and she comes in and she goes, "Oh yeah, my dad knows you. You DJ Run Stanley all the time. He knows who you are."
Oh, there you go. Yes, I know. Yeah, Pete, you're like our
that's
regular.
Just too funny.
I know. It really it is
completely comfortable with me leaving.
Just because you are DJ at Run Stanley every year.
And he knows that I have a position with the city and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, oh yeah, he's comfortable leaving me here. He's going to do yard work.
It's funny. But you know what? I think that's great. It's funny how people, kind of recognize us through some of the community service that we do. And and I'm the same way. I'll see people and go, "Oh my gosh, I hear your name all the time," or we talk about you all the time because you do so much for the community. So, all right, folks, a few senior center announcements before we take our next break. The end of the month. So I know Mother's Day is over, and it was this past Sunday, but we typically do our Mother's Day luncheon celebration at the end of the month, and generally that's because we're recognizing our volunteers at the beginning of May, and we like to spread those kind of exciting, important events out. So this year, we are calling all mothers, grandmothers, godmothers, and mother figures, as well as those who support and love our moms, so this is for everyone. Join us on Wednesday, May 31st for our All-American Mother's Day Curbside Extravaganza. Our menu will include old-fashioned meatloaf with gravy, mashed potatoes, and a vegetable. Our special dessert will be apple pie a la mode. That's about as all-American as it gets, folks. And what would an extravaganza be without music? So as you snake your way through the parking lot, you're going to roll down your windows to hear local favorites Richie Mitnick and Dave Colucci adding their musical flair to the festivities. Have some extra $1 bills ready to purchase tickets for the Friends Group's special month-long 50/50 fundraiser, which started a week ago. So we'll be doing a 50/50 over the course of the next month. I stand corrected because in the newsletter I put that last year's winner, I think I put that won $350. Actually, we checked that last year's winner won $644. Sandra Fisher, who is my expert, our greeter and the seller of most of our tickets for various events, said to me, no, because the winner last year bought a brand new set of 4 tires with his winnings. So pretty special. So that's the 50/50 raffle. So anyway, if you are interested in signing up for the All-American Mother's Day Curbside Extravaganza to be held in 2 weeks, tickets are not tickets, but you have to make a reservation. So call us at the Senior Center, 562-6435. We still have, space available, but typically these kind of events sell out fairly quickly, so I would encourage you to do that. I just mentioned that we are having the Friends Group as having their month-long 50/50 fundraiser. You can purchase tickets at the greeter's desk. If you're going to be at the extravaganza, we'll be selling them literally while you're snaking your way through the parking lot, and we'll be selling them through till the middle of June. The winner's name will be drawn at our Father's Day event, which is going to be a Jimmy Maz concert. So that's coming down the pike on Friday evening, June 16th, I believe is the date. And those tickets will be going on sale next Wednesday morning. So let me switch to I got to find my Jimmy Maz article. Here it is. Okay, so let's talk about Jimmy Maz. Friday, June 16th from 6:15 to 7:15, he'll be doing his Cruisin' Through the 50s show. Each attendee will take home a scrumptious ice cream sundae. Those will be distributed as participants leave the event. As I said, we'll have 50/50 tickets. Our month-long raffle will end up on that night because Jimmy Maz himself will be choosing the winner. He'll be drawing the winning ticket. Tickets for the Jimmy Maz concert are $10, and they must be purchased in advance. They go on sale a week from today at 9 a.m. You may purchase no more than 2 tickets per person. So if you're a couple and you want to bring another couple, then each member of the couple can purchase 2 tickets. Each person can purchase 2 tickets, but no more than that, because we expect a quick sellout on that one. And you do actually have to come down to the Senior Center to purchase your tickets for the Jimmy Maz concert, as opposed to the Mother's Day lunch extravaganza. You just have to call us to make your reservation for that, okay? So hopefully we have all of that squared away. I also want to remind folks that on the third Monday of every month, and on the fourth Monday of every month, we have our legislative office hours. So the third Monday of the month from 12:30 to 1:30, we have either Representative Kelly Pease or Ethan Flaherty, who is Kelly's legislative aide at the Senior Center, to discuss whatever you want to discuss with him or them if they're there together. So if you have questions, if you just want to find out, how are you voting on the budget at the state level, or what's going on at the state level, this is just a really great opportunity for some one-on-one time. So Kelly Pease was his legislative aide, Ethan Flaherty, was at the Senior Center this past Monday. Again, it's from 12:30 to 1:30, and they're on the third Monday of the month. Senator Lovelace, typically it's one of his legislative aides, not generally the senator's not there, but every once in a while he pops in. But one of his legislative aides is there the following week, the fourth Monday of every month. And this is not just for seniors. I mean, if you are someone else and you want to meet with the state senator or state representative or one of their aides, feel free to come on down to the Senior Center. So we'll have someone from Senator Lovelace's office at the Senior Center this coming Monday from 12:30 to 1:30. I personally find this to be a great time to meet with these people. It's good
to get some one-on-one time.
Yes,
there's not a lot of people around.
Exactly, as I am advocating, and I will give you a perfect example of how well this worked. I got a phone call about a month or so ago from someone who works she's one of the administrators of the Massachusetts Organization for the Homeless. I don't remember exactly the name of the organization, but it has to do with working with homelessness in Massachusetts. So they were trying to get a bill passed, they were looking for sponsors for a bill. It's called the Bridge Program, where they would be able to provide some funding for people who are losing housing. And we have this problem in Westfield. We have seniors who are losing housing. We're dealing with several cases right now where senior has been living in, say, a duplex or an apartment in a house for years. The landlord passed away. House went to the children. Children don't want to be landlords, or they don't live in the area. They're putting the house on the market. Senior now doesn't have any place to live. I can't tell you how many times this has happened. Now, we can put them on the wait list for housing, for subsidized housing, but you're on a wait list and it's going to take some time. So this particular piece of legislation would actually help the person to cover the cost of getting some temporary housing so it's a subsidy until we can actually get them housing. So I met with Mark Messer, who is one of Senator Lovelace's legislative aides, to ask if Senator Lovelace would consider signing on as a sponsor of this bill. This is something that can really benefit Westfield seniors. It's also kind of a pilot project, so the Organization for the Homelessness is hoping that if this takes off, they can get even more funding in the future. I got an email from Mark yesterday as a follow-up. So this happened like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Got an email from Mark yesterday saying, just so you know, the senator did sign on to that bill. So there is a perfect example of, as Pete said, some one-on-one time. And I did not meet with the senator personally. I didn't talk to him personally about any of this. I worked slowly with his legislative aide to get the message to him, and everything worked out exactly the way it should. So take the time, come on down. These are great opportunities. Don't let them pass you by. And again, you do not have to be an older adult to come into the Senior Center and meet with these legislators. Anybody is welcome. Young people, people with children, you have your own concerns about what's happening. And these are your representatives. These are the people who are advocating on your behalf. So let them know. Be vocal. They do listen to us. I think it's really important. So, and thank you to Kelly Pease and to John Lovelace for setting up these office hours. I think they're so important. All right, let's take a break. It is 7:48. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of the birthday of Frederick McKinley Jones, who was the inventor of sort of portable refrigeration that was used during World War II, we're going to listen to Cold as Ice by Foreigner. We'll be back.
You're as cold as ice. You're willing to sacrifice
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:52. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete. So
good morning.
There you go. You're
Sorry.
there. I know that's okay.
I'm
I know
chatting with the next host.
I know there's a lot of stuff going on.
You can see him over here.
That's okay. That's quite all right. That's fine. Go ahead and chat.
Okay.
So May is National Salad Month. So, you know, this show is all about health and wellness. We talked before about kidneys. And, of course, Dr. Lovelace always is talking about the importance of good nutrition. So let's talk about National Salad Month. And with the warmer weather here, there's no better time to give our oven a rest and enjoy a lighter meal. When we typically think of salad, we think of a traditional side salad or a green salad, but I would encourage you to experiment. Don't forget that salads include fruit and can be expanded to include protein, which make delicious entrees. A salad can be a nutrition powerhouse. To boost the nutrition of your salad, think about adding color and texture. Both of those things are really important because if you think about color and texture, you got all kinds of ideas that we can do. So start with the greens, but instead of using only iceberg lettuce, try mixing in darker greens like spinach or kale or red leaf or green leaf or romaine lettuce. Then add your favorite veggies for flavor and crunch. You know, the typical kind of cucumbers, tomatoes, shredded carrot, radish, zucchini, broccoli, baby pea. I don't put baby peas in, but I like that idea. I think I'm going to start doing that. Those are just a few options. Fruits can add some sweetness to your salad. You can try some citrus fruits like mandarin oranges and grapefruit, or you can go with sliced strawberries or fresh raspberries as a topping. Don't forget the protein. Beans like garbanzo, black beans, or pinto beans add protein, fiber, and flavor to any salad. Low-fat cheese, hard-boiled eggs, or a lean meat like fish or chicken breast is also a great addition. Feel free to throw in some leftover meats. We do that a lot in our house, especially chicken or fish or meats that, steak from the grill if you have leftover. Nuts and seeds also make a terrific topping, and they add some crunch and some flavor. And the one thing that you just want to be careful of because we eat a lot of salad in my house, it's just, that's kind of our staple. It's kind of our go-to. So I just made one yesterday. I take a huge metal bowl. So if you want salad to keep for a long time, and when I make a salad, it generally keeps for almost a week, but I keep it in a metal bowl, not a plastic, not a Tupperware. I use Tupperware for other things, but not for salad. It won't keep as well. Metal or a glass bowl, and cover it when it's in the refrigerator. The one thing that I also do is I used to, but I don't anymore. I cut up my cucumbers and I put them to the side. Those are in a separate dish because cucumbers become slimy if they get too old, and they'll make the rest of the salad kind of slimy too. So keep those separately, and those I cut up as I need those. So I'll cut those up just for a couple of days worth and keep those in a small bowl. But the rest of the salad, all the rest of the things that I talked about, minus your protein topping. So if you go with like a meat or a fish, just throw that in at the end. But if you just have your lettuce and your cut up veggies, mixed into the salad, I keep it for a week. It's a huge bowl. I got it at Big Y a bunch of years ago. It's like a bathtub full. And then as we keep going through the salad, I have other smaller metal bowls that I use. But my family would starve if they didn't eat salads because it's one of those meals that I can, like now, it's done. And so now Gary and Grace can take it out of the refrigerator tonight. You know, if I have a meeting and I'm getting home late, we had steak on the grill for Mother's Day, so we made one extra steak so that we could slice that up and put that on top of the salad. We always have hard-boiled eggs. I have a hard-boiled egg maker. I'll have to bring that in when Jen Jafune comes in next month. We can kind of talk about that. But that's been great for us because we eat a lot of hard-boiled eggs. But, you know, when I prepare anything, fish, salmon, chicken, I just make some extra and then throw it on top of the salad. Tuna fish is always a standby. And, you know, sometimes, too, like I generally shop at Big Y, but also at Stop and Shop, and you can get, you know, like the Purdue chicken that's already bagged and grilled and sliced. If you get it on sale, it's a good buy. And, you know, throw those in your freezer, and they come in strips, and then you can just take out as many as you want, throw them on top of your salad, and you have a meal. So I love salads. I didn't, when I was growing up in my house, a salad was iceberg lettuce and a few tomatoes, and that was it. And I loved the crunch of a salad, and I remember, and I was not a big fan of cooked vegetables, mostly because I think in those days everybody was overcooking everything. And I swore when I was growing up that when I grew up, I was going to eat salads, and I was going to make a salad my way, because even back in the 60s, I kept thinking, I like raw vegetables. I like raw green peppers, and I like carrots, and I like, I didn't like broccoli cooked, but I'll eat it raw like crazy on a salad, and, you know, shredded like red cabbage. I love that. Radishes, all of that. I like the crunch, and I like the flavor. The only thing you have to be careful.
I come from an Irish household. Cabbage gives me gas.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? The shredded cabbage is one of those things. Gary asked me not to put it on the salad, so that's separate. He doesn't particularly. Yeah, I think
same thing. Yeah.
Same thing. I think it doesn't agree with him,
Yep.
so that's fine. You know, you can cut up all that stuff.
I love it.
yeah, right, exactly.
until about 10 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing that you have to be really careful of, and some people mess up, they make this really wonderful, healthy salad, and then they drown it in dressing that has about 9 billion calories. So just be careful on your dressings. I like ranch dressing, but I know it's a creamy dressing, so don't overdo on any of your dressing, and that's the main thing. And the other thing is, if you want to keep a salad a long time in the fridge, don't mix the dressing in ahead of time. Just, you know, put that on as you go along, and you'll be fine. All right, folks, we are wrapping it up here for Wake Up Wednesday with Tina Gorman. We have some folks here from Southwick. Is that right, Pete? Because it's the Southwick session.
Select Board Chair Doug Moglin and Chair of Finance Joe Didi will be here.
Oh, and they're going to be talking money and Southwick.
Well, they had their town meeting last night, so the budget got approved. So I'm sure we'll be talking
There
finances.
You go. And our Mayor McCabe, will be presenting our budget to the City Council at tomorrow night's meeting. So stay tuned for that. Next week we have Joe Rouse. We're talking all about public health. Hopefully Joe will be here. Remember last month he was sick at the last minute and had to cancel out. So hopefully Joe will be here. Well, we're actually going to be talking a little bit about the end of the emergency status of the pandemic and kind of what that means for people, especially in their pocketbook. All right, everybody, have a great one. Remember, you've got lots of things going on tonight in Westville. You've got the Ride of Silence if you want to do some cycling, and you've got the the concert, the Greater Westfield Community Band going on up at the high school. Have a good one. I'll see you next week.
Love is in the air. Spring is everywhere.
A little bird, he told me so. He said, come on, get on the go. Open your eyes, the sky is full of butterflies. The blossoms on the trees stirred up the honeybees. Spring makes my fever rise. Spring fever, spring is here at last. Spring fever, my heart's beating fast. There is no doubt now, love is in the air. Get up, spring is everywhere. Well, if you feel the wanderlust, just grab a car, hop a bus. In every town, there's excitement to be found. So much is happening, don't miss the joy of spring. The world's in love, just look around. Spring fever, here comes to everyone. Spring fever, it's time for fun. There spring is everywhere. Spring fever, it's spring fever time. Spring fever, watch that fever climb. There is no doubt now, love is in the air. Get up, spring is everywhere. Spring is everywhere.